Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. This is of course a prep for the final exam. It's very important that you do a good job on this test. It is 68 questions long. I know that's a random number. I might add another 2 in there just to even it out. It'll be between 68 and 70 questions. Some of the questions will be repeated from exam 2 and exam 1. However, not all of them will. So I'm going to give you a brief study guide, what you need to review in order to understand, of course, the material and make sure that you study the right stuff. I really encourage you to go back to your textbook and reread everything that we've gone over from the perspective of each chapter and take a look at the PowerPoint. But this is what I would study moving into the final exam. Now, I just want to preface this. I've changed up some questions, so it's not going to be the same as prior classes. So if you have a study guide someone potentially has snuck you, don't use it because things are going to be a little bit different with this exam. However, it is from the textbook. The questions are from the textbook. So know about beneficence. What is beneficence? Autonomy, non-malfeasance, and justice. So let's go over those again. I went kind of fast there. Autonomy, non-malfeasance, beneficence, and justice. What are those terms? Know the difference between a tort and felony and a misdemeanor. Tort, felony, and misdemeanor. Again, these are multiple choice, true or false, and short answer questions, just so you're aware. What are the 4 Ds? The 4 Ds. Remember duty, dereliction of duty, direct cause, and damages. Those are the 4 Ds. Know about the difference between federal and state laws. What are the difference between federal and state laws? And then also know the difference in a healthcare setting between, the physician who gives the orders, what the expectation is of the patient following those orders. Just know about the medical practice from the perspective of hierarchy, even though there's really not supposed to be one. When I say hierarchy, like when the physician writes the orders, how should people comply with those in regards to nurses or medical assistants? How does that play out? Know about JACO. What is JACO? Talked a little bit about that in the lecture. How about utilitarianism? And then we talk about ethics. Know about duty-based ethics, rights-based ethics, and justice-based ethics. What's the difference between assault and battery? Assault and battery. Talked a little bit about workplace injuries. And this question is workplace injuries in regards to the Latin term respondeat superior. Know what that term is? How about consent? What type of consent must one give? There's different forms of consent. Implied, right? Informed. Know the difference between, there might be one other. Can't remember off the top of my head, but know about consent. All right. Scrolling, make sure I don't miss anything. Know about HIPAA. What is HIPAA? When was it enacted? Why is it here? And what's the importance of HIPAA? Know about Good Samaritan laws. Good Samaritan laws, of course, are important for emergency medical personnel, right? And anyone who encounters a situation where someone might be suffering and you try to help them. And the ED as well, too. Know about a living will. What is a living will? Know about negligence. How does negligence impact us? Know the difference between, CMS and professional organizations, and what the requirement between the two are. What do professional organizations do? What does CMS do? They're highly different, right? One's regulatory and one is a bit different. One may be regulatory to the practice that you're in, but they're different. All right. Talked about negligence already. There's a lot of questions in regards to that. What is COBRA? COBRA insurance, how does that work? Why is it there, COBRA? How about fraud? You've heard a lot about fraud in the news, right? What is fraud and why is it important? Implied consent. I think I might have mentioned that. Implied consent, informed consent. Know about consent. I did mention that earlier. Mediation. When you go, instead of going to court, you mediate, right? Come to an agreement outside of court setting. There's sometimes a mediator involved. You know what mediation is? How about litigation? What is litigation? Also, what's a subpoena? What is a subpoena? Scrolling to the true or false, because you guys are going to pick up on those, I think, pretty easily. I already talked about respondeat superior. A few questions on that. What about the Americans with Disabilities Act? What is the Americans with Disabilities Act? Privacy and security from HIPAA. Privacy and security laws. Know about those. Defamation of character. What is defamation of character? Another thing you hear a lot in the news. Defamation of character. The standard of care. I know we've talked about that a lot. What is the standard of care? What standard does one need to practice in? Standard of care. Know about the Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967. I know that's pretty detailed. Age Discrimination in Employment Act. What about the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, EEOC? Know about that? What about the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Very important. Know about that as well. Huge in the history of our country. And one other that I want you to think about. Some Latin terms, right? I'm not going to try to pronounce them. One I already did, respondeat superior. Also know about neglect. Know about neglect in the healthcare setting. What is neglect? All right, I think that is it. I think that's a pretty comprehensive review of the final exam. Guys, if you don't study, it's going to be really, really tough. So make sure you take a look at that textbook. Take a look at those PowerPoints. You're all going to do a really good job if you do so. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions. If you don't understand something, now's the time to do it before the exam, right? You have to do your exam as well on time. Make sure you follow instructions. Use Lockdown Browser. Respondus Lockdown Browser. That's what I was trying to say. Confusing that a little bit with Respondeat Superior. But use Lockdown Browser and make sure you prepare before the exam. You have to do it by the due date. Do not submit your exam late. It will really negatively impact the grade. And we have to get final grades in, right? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I hope this was helpful. I'm looking forward to ending the semester on a really high note because you guys have done a great job so far in this class. Keep up the great work. Talk to you soon.